Hey there, Pisces. So let's have a look at your relationship and connections forecast for the 2 weeks starting the 28th of February from the new moon in Pisces, taking you right the way through to the total lunar eclipse in Virgo on the 14th of March. So this forecast is specifically for you to talk around the ideas of your romantic partnerships and intimacy, like how you can meet each other's needs, deepen trust, and let go of anything that holds you apart. But also what you might want to focus on in terms of your friendship circles, and also how to enhance your family dynamics. So let's have a look at what's coming up. So you might recognize these charts from when I was doing your overall Pisces forecast. But what's really coming up? Okay, so in terms of relationship connections and intimacy, let's have a look at the romantic potentials. So what I'm really looking at here is the ruler of your 7th house, your 5th house, and your 8th house. I really want to get a feel for what's going on, like where are you being helped by their influence, and where are you being kind of stopped in your tracks? So your 7th house is ruled by Mercury. Now, Mercury's in an interesting position in this next short while. First of all, as we start this, Mercury is already in a conjunction with Saturn. So there is definitely this sense of wanting to bond, wanting to go deeper in your relationships. And Mercury is quickly moving into a conjunction with Neptune and also the North Node, like an exact one, on the 1st and the 2nd of March. So that's this coming weekend. So there is, I think, this sort of dynamic of going deeper and more seriously into your relationships, and also embracing that sense of, the cosmic divine sense of, why you are together. To me, it looks like you're really aware of it, aware of the reasons that life has brought you together. And I think that can be quite helpful when you realize that every relationship has some kind of karmic energy or some kind of destiny, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I think there is that sense that, we are here for a reason, and it might not always be a reason that you're happy with, but this has the hallmarks of a potentially spiritual connection in terms of how you're relating to each other. It feels really quite deep, possibly deeper than you've experienced for a really long time, especially with Mercury conjunct the North Node. That is just going to be happening once a year. And the fact that it's the North Node and Neptune is making it super dreamy. So that's really good. There's real good positives starting this weekend. Now, funnily enough, Venus goes retrograde on the 2nd. I did speak about this in the overall forecast, and she's going to be coming out of this area and coming back into the 1st. So the interplay between Venus and also Mercury is interesting. Venus, she's ruling your 8th house, which has to do with sex and the depth of like the secret side of intimacy. But Venus is also the ruler of the business between you, the unrestful business between you, the things to do with shame, blame, guilt, and anger, the bits that maybe where you don't vibe, etc. And also judgments. So I do think with Venus going retrograde in your 2nd house during this time, I think there is the possibility that you are reflecting a lot more and possibly really wanting to come back into peace and quiet and silence in your relationships, to the level that is actually possible. To me, it feels like there is an imperative to let those judgments go, whatever judgments are coming in to your relationships, let them go. And this retrograde period of Venus is absolutely assisting with that. Now, Venus retrograde does seem to bring in ideas of nostalgia and the past, and this is mirrored actually with the South Node currently going through your 7th house to do with relationships, because the South Node reminds us of when we were good with something, when something went very well, and it can represent the actual past. So you may well find with this Venus retrograde and the addition of South Node going through your seventh that the past is reignited, that somebody from the past is coming up, or maybe you're keeping them alive yourself because you're, in a kind of wistful state of thinking, I wonder what happened to those wonderful times when, the South Node going through this area over the next 16 months is likely to challenge you a little bit on that. It's like reminding you of better times. The South Node shows where we've got some competency. So, I don't know if there was a heyday in your life of when you were, in a relationship and it felt really, really good. If you're not in that same relationship right now, to me, what that's saying is, what were the qualities that you were feeling? How were you in yourself? Who were you being in that moment when you're in that relationship? Because obviously, you can't be in a relationship unless you're relating to something. And, in the same way that the star signs and the houses work in polarity, so does the North and South Node work in polarity. So whatever good was coming from your past relationships is the key to what you need in your current relationships. Anywhere where it felt good before, you may not have been in the right relationship. That's not to say there's nothing good you can't take from that. So use the past, use Venus's ability to kind of be a bit nostalgic and to review good feelings and see what comes up. I also think that will deepen your intimacy, deepen the level of connection that you have together. Now, your fifth house that has to do with, overall sexual encounters and the feelings of satisfaction, they're ruled by the moon. And of course, this whole piece, this whole 2-week period is, starting on the new moon in your sign. So I think that's a really good sign right off the bat that, this is going to be a time when you're coming back into your physical body and most likely wanting to experience more sexually with somebody that you love. The fact that you've currently got Mars traveling through this part of sexual intimacy and intensity and kind of joyfulness and orgasms and, that kind of place where you're creating something. Mars has been retrograde in this area for quite some time. And 2 days ago, I'm recording this on the 26th. So on the 24th, Mars started to go direct again. Now, at the time of the new moon, Mars is in a lovely trine with the new moon and will continue to be in a trine with the sun going through your first house. He's also in a trine with Saturn and Mercury currently. That's the ruler of, your relationships. I see this as being really, really beneficial. It's showing that your ability to connect sexually, your ability to go deeper into, like trusting in the flesh connection, the body connection, the physical connection, that's going to strengthen. It's going to give you a bit more courage, maybe a little bit more confidence, which I think, won't go amiss. Now, one thing that it is bringing up though, and I see this as an opportunity, there is this ongoing square between Chiron and Mars. Now, this was already, like this energy was already available to you at the end of 2024. And it looked like Mars had completed on it, and it had, and then Mars went retrograde and sort of came back into it. What this is highlighting is an ongoing, maybe not good enough script that you've got playing, going on and on and on. So for instance, if you're a single Pisces, and you've been looking for your partner, the ongoing script of I'm not good enough, and therefore, it's translating into your sexual life and your readiness to engage in dating. To me, it feels like whilst this square is persisting, and whilst you're unable to transform whatever you think is not good enough about yourself, it's going to be really hard to get anything that is stable. To me, it feels like you're really ready, and this new moon is the evidence of that. To me, it's like you're really ready to work on yourself, be in your body, and to create a new life story, create a new chapter for yourself. And this is just the thing that's destabilizing it. So anywhere where you have the inspiration to be able to unpick anything about your body that you're not quite, like super confident in, work at it. This is the time to work at it. There's a lot of things to help you here that are giving you more courage and more awareness. But this little thing here, to me, it just looks like the unhealable wound. Like Chiron shows us where we hold a vulnerability, usually one from early childhood. One of those like not good enoughs. So it may well come from stories that you've heard from your parents, about their sexual performance, or how you have impacted that. So to me, it just feels like there's a family story that's persisting. In terms of friendships and social circles, they are really ruled by Venus in your third house. That's very much about your local friends, and Saturn, which is up here in, like represented by your 11th house. Now, Venus is obviously going retrograde. So again, to me, it feels like there's a sense of rediscovery about your friends. I think with Venus retrograde, you're likely to hook into some older friends, maybe friends that you've lost contact with in recent times. As she's coming back into the first house, she's actually moving towards Saturn. So I actually think you're going to be reconnecting with old friends in this next 2 weeks, but also working on friendships that are coming out of your old contacts. So yeah, don't discount anyone, from your old, series of friends. They may well hold the key to future friendship enrichments. And they might be bringing the right people into your life. Again, this is all about understanding what's going on in terms of relatedness, with Mercury ruling all the sort of people in your life that's not really you. Mercury is really speaking about friendships, and Mercury in a conjunction with Saturn is showing you are really feeling strongly about it. Now, Mercury is going into Aries on the 3rd, and I think that is going to bring a lot more inspiration to be more forthright, to connect with people again, to pick up the phone and to make the effort. So I think that's going to stand you in good stead. Forgive me. One thing I particularly like is this connection between Mercury and Venus on the 11th. Mercury is coming into this conjunction with Venus while she's retrograde in the second house in Aries. To me, it's friendly, it's non-competitive, it's, picking up the old patterns of the past, picking up the old threads, laughing about things, maybe coming into forgiveness of old things. Realizing that it's about the human connection and maybe not necessarily one thing that happened. It's about the overall picture. So this is very, very warm and I think very, very helpful. Towards the end of the 2 weeks, as Venus carries on her path and Mercury is getting further and further into Aries, Mercury's getting ready to actually go retrograde too. He's going to be going retrograde from the 15th of March. And by the time Venus goes direct again, he'd have finished. He'd have just gone retrograde and direct again. So there is this kind of double whammy of, reviewing your local friendships and the sectional connection that you might have within your actual existing relationships and all your relationships. These two retrogrades are really causing you to think long and hard. And so again, what I would really, really emphasize is everything is coming from your review at the moment. And what is most important is that you get back into that feel good place. Remember who helped you to feel good. Remember who helped you to understand who you were. Like, bring in the friendships and the connections and make stronger the connections with people who remind you of the past and past good times. They are the key to, I think, a more sustainable future, in your relationships. Last thing then I want to share, and I mentioned this in the overall forecast, Jupiter was in a square to your relationships square to the new moon in Pisces on the 28th, and he will be in a square to the total lunar eclipse in Virgo. So to me, it feels like existing family situations that have not been dealt with are going to likely come up. They're going to come up to a head. You know, they are becoming more prominent in your mind's eye, and the reason being is you can't really let these kind of swollen situations that you're trying to ignore and cover up, you can't really let them fester. So I do think the new moon is particularly clearing. And if I was in your shoes right now, Pisces, at the start of this, you know, around the time of the new moon, you know, not only would I put in an intention that I come into a greater awareness of what brings me happiness and joy, but I would also work on the forgiveness angle. You know, how can I come into forgiveness? How can I come into feeling better about myself? How can I feel so good about myself that all of my connections are vibrating with that intention? In particular, because, you know, Mercury, the North Node, and Neptune, and also his connection to Saturn, you know, Mercury is the key here. You know, Mercury is very committed to having something really that represents the soulful being that you really truly are. So I hope that's helpful for you. Really, truly, I hope that's helpful. And yeah, if you would like more of this, then just check the link out below. Lots of love.